I was sitting in my small apartment building, bored as hell, as I had no plans and had no idea what I was going to do with my day. I looked outside my bedroom window to see the busy, bustling streets of the city. Seeing people of all kinds, people going to work, waiting for buses, sitting on outdoor chairs at restaurants I'd seen every single day. City life was nice and all. There was basically unlimited access to pretty much anything I could ever want, but I'd be lying if I didn't admit that it got boring after a while. Seeing the same buildings and scenery every single day, day in and day out, and following the same routine each day, it started to drain me, and I started feeling like I was trapped and insanely bored, as I constantly felt like I was just going through the motions and living life without truly living. I remember the days of being a child and living in the countryside before I moved to go to college. The number of adventures I had in the woods behind my house, playing and pretending that I was a hero in a woodland realm, or climbing the trees like Tarzan, or building little forts that felt like castles. I longed for something like that again. One day, though, I decided that I would stop longing and just do it. It was summer, so I didn't have to worry about classes or anything, and I decided to take a week off of work so I could spend plenty of time out there in the wilderness. I then got the idea to bring some friends along to add to the fun, you know. I brought my friends Sam, Gabe, and Odyssea. I actually had a huge crush on Odyssea, so I was pretty happy when she accepted the invitation to come with us. We packed our bags with clothes, food, water, and all the other necessities before piling into my truck and setting out. The drive was fun. We'd all been friends for years now, so being together always made for a good time. Gabe, who was the funny one of the group, cracked jokes that made everyone laugh as usual. He brought up a story that went like, "Do you guys remember when I swapped Sam's protein drink out with spoiled milk that one time?" We all laughed at that memory, including Sam himself, as he lightly punched Gabe on the shoulder. "I was throwing up for 10 minutes, Sam said, laughing his ass off. Sam was the strong guy of the group. He went to the gym constantly, but he wasn't a jock or anything though. He was basically a big, lovable guy who just liked to work out and be fit and all. He tolerated Gabe's jokes and often also found them funny. He wasn't one to hold a grudge, so looking back on all those jokes for him was always fun. "How old are you guys?" Odyssea said as she laughed, remembering the joke. She was the smart one of the group as well, which was one of the things I loved about her. She was also kind and caring for basically everything, as she always tried to solve arguments with words before they escalated into anything else. The drive continued like that, with us all smiling and laughing, and talking about the good times we've had, times that I took for granted. We arrived at the woods, the same woods that I grew up in. It felt like coming back home in a way. I heard the birds singing and the wind blowing through the trees. That was the last time those woods ever made me feel at peace. The first 2 days were amazing. Gabe was being funny as usual. He went swimming in a nearby lake, and we decided to join in with him. Other than that, we also told stories, made s'mores, admired the forest. I even made some progress with Odyssea, as I started to show a bit more of how I felt to her, and she seemed to hint at the same feeling. On the third day, though, that's when stuff started to get bad. We found something. It was a mangled deer corpse. It was completely ripped to shreds, as if something cut it up with giant blades. What the hell did this? I asked. Pack of wolves? A bear? Sam suggested. Bears and wolves don't cut up their food like this, I said, as I started to get a little worried as to what this could possibly be. As something like a bear or wolf wouldn't just completely mangle the corpse like this. Gabe suddenly chimed in, being the goofball that he was, asking us to take his picture with it, as he grabbed one of the deer's legs and put it up to his mouth so it would look like he was eating it in the picture. Even though I thought that Gabe needed to learn how to read the room a little bit, it kinda helped lighten the mood and helped me feel a little bit better about the whole situation. Just in case there was something dangerous in the area, we decided to move the camp further away from the deer. On the way, though, I kept feeling like something was moving around the woods close by. I'd hear small twig snaps far away, or weird sounds that sounded far off in the distance. No one said anything, so I thought I was just being paranoid. We set up our new campsite and started a fire, as it had gotten late. We ate some s'mores afterwards, as you usually do on a camping trip, and Gabe left to use the bathroom before the rest of us headed back to our tents. Before I fell asleep, though, Odysseia came into my tent, as she said she couldn't sleep. We talked for a while about the past and everything. I can't believe how long it's been since we met each other, Odysseia said as she laid back with me. Yeah, so much has changed since then, but through it all, the four of us have been friends through it. She smiled at that statement, and so did I. She complimented me and said how I've always been there for her, and I said the same thing back to her. We continued like this for a while, and all the bad times that we've had as a group. Suddenly, we both got closer to each other and closed our eyes. But before we could tie the knot, I guess, I heard the same strange noise that I had heard from earlier that day when we were moving campsites. Did you hear that? I asked as I listened. She nodded quietly, not wanting to make a noise. Nothing happened for a few seconds before we heard footsteps getting closer. They sounded off, though. They didn't really seem to have a rhythm like a person walking or anything like that. Is that Gabe? I asked. He couldn't have been going to the bathroom for that long, could he? Odysseia said quietly after I said that. Whatever was out there must have heard us, as it responded. It's me, guys. It was Gabe's voice, allowing both of us to let out a sigh of relief. But then suddenly we heard a loud scream from Sam's tent, followed by an ear-splitting screech that nearly deafened me. I quickly opened the tent, and what I saw in front of me, I will never forget. There was a tall, lanky, humanoid-looking creature tearing into Sam's tent. Its skin was nearly as dark as the night sky, and that skin was pulled so tightly to the creature's body that I could see a perfect outline of the creature's bones, as if the creature had been starved for weeks. And its head was a deer's head, but with no skin. It was just the skull of a deer as its head. It was trying to claw its way into Sam's tent with its long, sharp claws that looked as sharp as daggers. As it did, though, it suddenly let out another ear-splitting roar as I saw Sam stab the creature with a large knife. This made the creature stumble back, and Sam saw us just now, fully getting out of the... and yelled, "Run!" The three of us ran as the creature's roar echoed through the night, as it was clearly in pain from the stab. Sam was hurt, though, as well. The creature had scratched his leg pretty bad, and he was losing blood. Eventually, the adrenaline ran out for him, and he couldn't go anymore. "Come on, we have to keep going," I told him as I tried to help him up. "I'm slowing you guys down, and I'm bleeding all over the place. If I stay with you, I'll just lead that thing straight to you guys." I didn't want to accept that fact, but I knew he was right. He grabbed me by the collar of my shirt. "Go, now! I'll buy you as much time as I can." Odysseus cried, and so did I. It took everything I had, but I turned away and started to run without looking back. All the memories I had with Sam rushed through my head now. Him defending me from bullies in middle school. Him helping me train to get myself stronger so I could fend for myself as well. Him helping me move my stuff into my apartment in the city once I moved. I'd lived through 1,000 lifetimes of my boring, mundane routine and never go to the countryside again if it meant that I could have kept my friend alive. We got to the car, and I quickly started it, and started to drive quickly, wanting to get out of there as fast as I could. "What the fuck was that?" Odysseus said to me as we panicked. "I have no idea. Just let me..." I was suddenly cut off by something big slamming into the car. The car flipped and crashed in the ditch next to the road. I blacked out for a few seconds. When I woke up, my vision was blurry. I saw the creature standing above the car. It was huge, easily at least 8 feet tall. It ripped off the car door like it was ripping a piece of paper in half, and grabbed Odysseus. She screamed and cried and tried to hit the creature away, but it was pointless. The creature jabbed its giant claws into her stomach and then ripped them out, opening up her body and making blood pour all over the road and the creature. It began drinking the blood, ripping pieces off her now still body, and eating them. Each time I could hear bones popping and flesh tearing. Each time the creature tore off a new part and bit into it. Its orange eyes glowed in the night. I'd laid there, ready to accept my fate, but then I saw gas leaking out of the car. I tried to get out of the car as quickly but as quietly as I could. I took out my lighter that I had in my pocket to start the campfire earlier that night. I tried to turn it on, but it didn't light on the first try. Of course it didn't. The creature heard this and roared as it got up, but I quickly got the lighter started as I tried it a second time, and then I threw it on the gas on the ground. The flames spread and covered the creature. It let out roars of pain as it stumbled and tried to put itself out before running back into the woods. I saw the creature enveloped in an inferno as it ran away. I ran in the other direction as fast as I could, as I realized the car was about to catch fire too, as the pool of gas was leading to it. Once I got a fair distance away, I later heard an explosion in the distance. Before my energy ran out, and my broken body gave out as everything went black. I woke up in a hospital after apparently being picked up by a driver passing by. I told people my story, but of course they didn't believe me. They said it was the trauma of the event playing tricks on me, since they believed I survived some sort of wild bear attack and the forest fire that later happened because of the creature setting fires to things, and of course my car exploding. I stayed with my parents while I recovered, thinking that at least after everything it was over. However, I was grieving over the loss of my friends. One night, though, that creature came to me in my dreams, and I saw what it did to Sam and Gabe. When Gabe went to the bathroom, that thing found him. It snuck up on him from behind and jabbed its claws through his back before biting down on his head and ripping it off with its powerful jaws. It wasn't him that came back to the camp. It was that thing impersonating his voice. What happened to Sam? It attacked him viciously, ripping him to shreds as if his body was made out of tissue paper, making his body completely unrecognizable. I guess the creature was getting back at him for stabbing it. I woke up in a cold sweat after that dream, crying my eyes out as I continued to grieve over my friends. Suddenly, though, I heard the soft sound of Odyssea's voice coming from outside the window. "Eric, I'm here." Hello, dear listeners, it's me, Children of the Night here, and though unfortunately we must part ways for now, I do hope you enjoyed tonight's story. Whether you listened to it here on YouTube or listened to it on the podcast, I thank you greatly. If you didn't know, I do have a podcast where I upload these narrations and also upload updates on horror news and give you recommendations for what pieces of horror media I think you should check out if you haven't done so already. That podcast can be viewed on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, pretty much everywhere where you can get podcasts. Also, if you want to be more involved in the community we have here, I do have an Instagram page at Children of the Night 1. There you can find just some updates and also some funny things that I post on occasion. If you want to support me even more than you already are by watching this YouTube channel or the podcast, feel free to check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/Children of the Night, or you can just use the link down in the description. There, you can get early access to these narrations, or you can get rights to voting on polls, where you can decide what horror narration I narrate next. In fact, you can even get voice acting roles in the narrations, and so much more. But remember, it is not mandatory, and anyone who chooses to support me in that way, I thank you greatly. But, until we see each other again, I want to say good night and sweet dreams to all my fellow children of the night.